Greetings. So, I want to describe and just elucidate what I do. What is a shamanic journey? You know, what do I do for when I do a shamanic journey? Because I have started doing them at home. I was taught by a shaman. So, a shamanic journey is a meditative state where you go into your imagination. It's very much like awake dreaming. So your brain gets into an altered state of consciousness, and you can do this in many ways. There are many ways to journey. The most common way might be through drugs, especially psychedelics. You can journey into an altered state of consciousness. Your brain waves are working differently. You might be seeking spiritual wisdom of some kind or just adventuring. But you can journey in other ways like fasting, sleep deprivation, meditations, different forms of meditations, music, art. But in kind of traditional shamanic journeys, you use a drum rhythm to get into a meditative, slower wave brain state that's more associated with daydreaming. So you'll listen to a shamanic drum, either live or I will be using a recording from a shaman. And so you get into this sort of altered brainwave state that's more meditational. And then you have a intention for the experience. In life, you usually should have some intention. I find that works best. But especially for journeying, that's the most crucial thing, that you have an intention. The intention could be to answer a question. You want to choose usually just one kind of specific thing. So today, I'm going to be choosing the intention of sort of meeting with these different energies, these 5 different energies that I've sort of been working with in EMDR and rage work, and sort of these archetypal energies within myself personified: the warrior, the lover, the neutral observer, the inner child, and the analyst. So I just want to meet with these 5 energies to basically discuss just how things are going with my heart. So I mean, that might sound kind of weird, but I've done a lot of journeys and I do a lot of this type of work, like inner child stuff, just many different types of using my imagination to sort of fragment and understand introspective things. So that's going to be my intention, and you'll want to have this and sort of repeat it to yourself a few times. And then, I mean, you can really journey any way you like to. Definitely make sure it's in a safe, secluded, private, quiet place where you won't be disturbed. That's a very comfortable setting. Again, to journey, you can do any sort of rituals that bring comfort to you, right? It's in each tradition there's different rituals. With the way I've been taught has certain rituals, but in general it's very non-denominational. You can pray, you can meditate, you can dance, drum, like do whatever you want to do. In a group setting, we usually drum and do some meditation and maybe some like affirmations. Sometimes people burn offerings to things. Today, when I like to journey by myself, I just like to have a few sort of sacred objects. And a sacred object could just be anything that's meaningful to you, anything that you're projecting yourself onto in some way, or that has personal significance. Sometimes just having the physical object can alter the journey experience. So the only thing I have with me today are my 3 friends. These crystals, which I've sort of projected different things onto, and then the crystals are associated with different meanings. So take what you will of that, but I look at it as more as a projection that you can kind of put your energy metaphorically into an object. This one has a very specific and important meaning. This actually represents my soul, a purified, sanctified version of my soul that was given to me in my last journey by the Egyptian god Horus. He purified my soul in the form of a ruby, handed it to me in my mind. And then when I came back, I ordered this off Etsy, and I was just like, I need to have this representation. I just think is really beautiful and meaningful. And then I have my other two friends. The rose quartz skull, which sort of represents a love and kindness energy. And the Shamanic, I think it's called, which represents like metaphysical transformations into positive energies, you know. So just these sort of different objects. You can have whatever you want. And then I like to burn some incense to sort of have that aromatherapy and sort of induce myself into an altered state of consciousness. Again, this is completely sober when I'm doing it, but obviously you don't need to be sober, and it might help not to be in some cases. So really, you can do anything you want to sort of purify the space, however you see fit. Do meditation, prep yourself, but really all you really need is to have an intention, a quiet space, and the drum rhythm. So I have laid out pillows, which I will lie down on the ground and just sort of burn this incense, turn off the lights, and then I'll put on a drum recording from a shaman doing a shamanic drumming ritual. And what you do when you journey is there's different sort of language around these things, but there's sort of three different worlds, you know, sort of the universe is broken up into these three different worlds: the lower world, middle world, and upper world. And there's different meanings and tasks and pros and cons of things like associated with each realm. But most of the time, you journey into the lower world when you're just seeking sort of general, you know, it's the safest place. It's the lower world represents very grounding energies. It represents nature, the earth, animals. It's the safest place to go. So I went to the lower world when I was doing the reason I got that ruby quartz was because I was doing a journey with the intention of reclaiming soul energy. And that's what happened. I wasn't expecting like the Egyptian god Horus to like just give me my soul in the form of a ruby and like blast Sam the sociopath narcissist into like dust. It was really awesome. It was the best journey that I've had. It was really, really psychedelic. Part of the reason it was so intense and powerful, I think, is because I prepared like 2 hours of meditation via drumming and affirmation and doing a shamanic breathing exercise of soul reclamation before I did this journey. And I did it in a park at like 3 a.m. So it was an extremely powerful journey. I got a lot out of it. It was amazing. So, you know, the more you put into it, the more you might get out of it. But also, sometimes the spontaneous journeys are part of the best ones. So just lay down. You can close your eyes. Usually when you're going into the lower world, you probably want to be on your stomach, because what you do is sort of in your mind, you sort of imagine yourself, you know, you don't want to be like purposely scripting this or narrating it. Again, it's supposed to be sort of like awake dreaming, like daydreaming. So you let your mind just wander, basically. So your mind sort of wanders itself down into something. So you want to go into the earth somewhere, somehow. I've gone into waterfalls, logs, Lake Michigan, holes in trees, sewer grates, like just, there's so many ways you can go in, you can enter, whatever way seems natural to you. And then you just, you know, see where you end up. And then you just kind of go from there. And all the while, you just sort of keep your intention in mind. And it's different for everybody. If you're more high openness person like I am, you might have a more vivid imagination and have more divergent thoughts, so there'll be more connections. So for me, I had no trouble journeying the very first time I tried to do it, because like probably I've already done a lot of journeying, you know what I mean, like in various ways, sober or not sober. So you want to have your intention, just kind of keep thinking it to yourself. And sometimes there's motifs that come up, and what are kind of known as guides will come up. These are known as like spirit guides, helpers, just kind of, a lot of times animals will come up, or people, like a spirit animal or a power animal or a totem, or even people will come up, ancestors. So again, some people literally view it as you're entering like a metaphysical spirit world and actually connecting with like the dead, ancestors, spirits of all these things, kind of fantasy creatures, fairies, and, all angels and all sorts of stuff. I view it more as just, different sparks of neural connections to whatever else. But so what you see will have personal meaning to you. So for example, like, why did Horus come up in my dream or my journey? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I listened to too much Jordan Peterson. We all know that. Why a ruby? I have no idea. And throughout that journey, there were like helpers. So you start to kind of notice motifs. Like there might be certain places that you enter more. Like I've gone into the same forest several times in my mind. I don't know what forest it is, but I've gone in there. I've gone into the park multiple times, into a sewer grate. And I've seen similar motifs of animals. Like I have a monkey, a capuchin monkey that has been sort of helping me. So I just see this monkey, like who knows where it came from. Sometimes they'll be real life animals. So like I have, of course, my rats who are drinking water right now. Shout out to the boys. They're always in my journeys with me. So whatever sort of you bring to it will be there, but when you're first doing it, I mean, you can really let it go. It can be very playful. You still want to have an intention, but if it's just to like, I'm just going to like relax and float around in a lake, or I'm going to just sit in a garden and pick flowers, or the ones I usually do, always do, which are like intense, like therapeutic processes, like, yeah. So that's what my intention is. I'm going to speak to these different energies and kind of just discuss my heart and maybe try to just talk about this. I'm going to actually journey, since the very last journey I had was for this, which is just huge. I'm going to journey with this in my hand, actually physically, while I'm lying down and listening to the drumming. Just to sort of take this with me and like, I don't know, this is just really powerful. I think that I have this. I want to kind of go back into this altered state of consciousness with a now physical object and just sort of explore what I might need to know, what I might need to talk to these different energies, these 5 different archetypes that I'm sort of working to cultivate or be more aware of communication with. So after you do so when you're listening to the drumming, there will be a steady rhythm for however long you put it on. 15 minutes is usually the ideal way to go, but obviously you can journey for hours really if you wanted to. I usually probably fall asleep longer than 15 minutes, but at some point the shaman will start drumming in a much different pattern, and it'll be very abrupt, and that'll signal to you, to your brain, that you need to go back. So what you do is you're in the journey, you're probably going through some really weird shit, and then it starts drumming, and you're like, oh, I need to start heading back into this state of consciousness. So you go back the way you came in your mind, go through the lake, go through the tree again, come out the other side, and then when it stops drumming, then you can kind of open your eyes and re-enter the spirit world. I mean, this world, which whatever, it's the same thing really, but you enter this state of consciousness. So it's actually really simple of a process. It's not difficult to do. Some people find it easier or harder than others just because there might be preconceived notions of what you're supposed to be doing or what your belief system might be. I mean, I'm an agnostic atheist who's very soulful and spiritual, so you know, what I bring to the table is more like a psychodynamic, like, these are projections of my imagination. I'm using this as like metaphorical, symbolic, archetypal knowledge. Some people literally believe that they're talking to God. Like, you know, it's whatever you want, whatever you need to sort of find answers that you're seeking within yourself or the universe, you know. So I do this as a meditational practice. It's definitely a lot more fun than just sitting there, like breathing. When you get into a meditative state, there has been research shown that it's a similar meditative state to just listening to like meditation music and breathing and trying to just relax. But that this will have more imagination. So if you're interested in sort of a more interesting, adventurous sort of meditation, and I highly recommend shamanic journeying. And again, there's so many ways you can induce it. You know, it's like beforehand, I'm not going to speak to what I was doing before this. But I guess it was a form of meditation. But, you know, you can do whatever you need, like, you know, get yourself, you know, working through something. And the more intentional you are and the more you stick to your intention, the easier it will be to journey. So I am on a journey for 15 minutes with this ruby soul aura quartz and see what happens. And I will report back. So that is Shamanic Journeying Part 1.